Every 3 minutes, somewhere in the world, an elderly person silently experiences a stroke caused by arteries so clogged with thin, invisible layers of plaque that their initial warning signs go unnoticed until it's far too late. This silent killer doesn't cause dramatic symptoms in the beginning. There are no sudden chest pains or drastic neurological changes. Instead, it gradually, insidiously damages the vital pathways that supply oxygen-rich blood to the brain and heart, setting the stage for catastrophic failure. These plaques are tiny deposits, layers of cholesterol, fat, dead cells, and calcium that build up over years with almost unnoticeable progression. The damage often begins silently, deep inside the blood vessels, without any external symptoms. Yet their presence is deadly, gradually eroding the arterial walls and making them vulnerable to rupture at any moment. Every year, millions of seniors are unaware that their daily routines are fueling this process, turning their arteries into ticking time bombs that could explode in a matter of seconds. The quiet progression often starts innocently enough with the everyday habits of many seniors. For breakfast, countless elderly individuals pour a bowl of sugary cereal or toast slices of white bread, believing these are harmless morning's routines. These foods are loaded with refined carbohydrates and added sugars, which cause rapid spikes in blood sugar levels. These sudden surges are more than just temporary discomfort. They trigger the release of inflammatory chemicals within the body. The body's immune response reacts to these abrupt fluctuations by inflaming the arterial walls, each spike causing minor injury that the body attempts to repair. Over days, weeks, and years, repeated blood sugar spikes lead to chronic inflammation inside the arteries. The vessel walls become thick, weak, and more prone to tears. As the inflammation persists, the arterial lining responds by depositing cholesterol and other substances, forming tiny plaques that begin to grow within the walls of arteries. Over time, this constant assault results in the formation of fragile, unstable plaques. These not only cause the arteries to narrow gradually, but also become more susceptible to rupture because they are composed of a mix of lipids and dead cells, not sturdy enough to withstand the normal pressures of blood flow. These unstable plaques can rupture suddenly without any warning, exposing their inner components to the bloodstream. The body recognizes this rupture as a serious injury, prompting an immediate clotting response. Blood cells and clotting factors rush to the rupture site, forming a large, dangerous blood clot that can quickly occlude the artery's lumen. When this occurs inside critical arteries leading to the brain or heart, the consequences are devastating. The clot can block blood flow entirely, depriving vital tissues of oxygen and nutrients in seconds, leading to a stroke or heart attack. These events happen suddenly and without warning, often resulting in permanent disability or death. The danger is compounded by the fact that these plaques and clots are invisible in everyday life, only detectable through specialized scans, making their threat all the more frightening for seniors unaware of their vulnerability. That was just the beginning of the terrifying journey that so many seniors do not see coming. Mrs. Johnson had always considered herself reasonably healthy, maintaining a modest diet and taking her daily walks. Yet one ordinary afternoon, everything changed in an instant. Without warning, she suddenly collapsed at home, unconscious and unresponsive. Her family rushed her to the emergency room where doctors explained that she had suffered a massive stroke caused by a ruptured arterial plaque deep inside her brain's blood vessels. They described how these tiny deposits, accumulating silently over years, can rupture unexpectedly when the arterial walls become too fragile, unleashing a large blood clot that blocks critical flow in seconds. Mrs. Johnson's event was not a fluke, but the tragic culmination of that insidious process that many seniors are unknowingly fueling through daily habits. Her story is a stark reminder that the true danger lies in what appears harmless on the surface, yet produces devastating consequences once the fragile balance tips. As time progresses in these cases, the threat only escalates. Once the first rupture occurs, the arteries that are already weakened and narrowed by accumulating deposits become even more fragile. Each microscopic tear or injury creates a new site for deposits of cholesterol, calcium, and dead cells, steadily building unstable plaques. These formations grow larger and more prone to losing stability because tiny tears or imperfections in their structure make them more susceptible to rupture when blood pressure spikes or when sharp changes in visceral conditions occur. Without signs or symptoms, seniors remain unaware that every turn, twist, or sudden exertion could be the one that pushes their arteries past the breaking point. With each new tear, the risk of another, potentially more catastrophic rupture increases exponentially, tightening the noose around their total blood flow. The terrifying truth is that seniors are just one rupture away from disaster at any moment, yet they remain completely unprepared, often unaware of the mounting danger. The slow, invisible buildup progresses relentlessly, and many are unknowingly walking a tightrope suspended over a pit of potential catastrophe with every meal, every stress, and every surge in blood pressure. Then, amid this mounting danger, the worst often happens in the most tragic way. One striking case involved Mr. Lee, an elderly man who, despite warnings from his doctor about his high blood pressure and early signs of arterial narrowing, continued his routine of consuming refined sugars and processed snacks daily. One evening at home, as he prepared dinner, an artery in his heart finally gave out. The rupture of a plaque released an enormous clot that lodged completely in his coronary artery. That clot was no small blood cell. It was a massive, life-ending blockage that instantly cut off oxygen to his heart muscle. In mere seconds, Mr. Lee experienced the sudden onset of intense chest pain, sweating profusely and clutching at his chest in agony. His breath grew shallow, and he collapsed onto the floor, with his heart ceasing to beat. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but the damage was irreversible. His fatal heart attack was a tragic culmination of decades of silent arterial damage, from the initial small deposits to the final catastrophic blockage. It underscores how these unstable plaques don't just pose a threat. They can unleash their deadly fury in seconds, catching victims entirely unprepared as the artery seals itself tight with a colossal clot, leaving no time for rescue or recovery. As the silent threat of arterial damage advances, the true danger lies in the progression of these fragile plaques that have already begun to destabilize inside the arteries. Each rupture causes a temporary but intense weakening of the arterial wall, allowing cholesterol and calcium deposits to gather in a cycle that accelerates with every incident. Think of it like a ticking time bomb. Every microscopic tear in the vessel wall slightly enlarges the vulnerable plaque, which is only a few millimeters in size initially, but may grow to a dangerous few centimeters within just 6 months if exposure to high blood sugar and inflammation continues unchecked. The body attempts to heal these tiny injuries by depositing more material, but with each subsequent rupture, the deposits become thicker, more irregular, and more prone to explosive rupture. The danger escalates exponentially as the arteries become increasingly compromised, their walls more brittle and less resilient. The risk of total arterial collapse rises with each event, causing the entire pipeline of oxygenated blood to be threatened at any moment. Blood flow may decrease slowly over years to the point where vessels are nearly blocked 80% or more. Yet patients often remain asymptomatic, unaware that their life is teetering on the edge of catastrophe. This gradual deterioration creates an environment where the next rupture could be the final straw, unleashing a massive clot capable of instantaneously sealing off critical arteries, feeding the heart or brain. That is precisely when the situation turns deadly and irreversible, as the damage shifts from progressive to catastrophic. The chain reaction of arterial injury and clot formation accelerates beyond control. Thickened, calcified arteries, once slightly narrowed, now become brittle and prone to sudden rupture. Once a plaque ruptures in a critical vessel such as a coronary or carotid artery, the body's clotting mechanism kicks into overdrive, producing a colossal clot that can fully occlude the artery within 30 seconds to a minute. These blockages happen so swiftly that the victim has no chance for warning or intervention. The walls of the arteries, now significantly weakened and calcified, often seize up with the forming clot, leaving the tissues starved of oxygen and nutrients in moments. The result is instant death in many cases, with victims collapsing suddenly or experiencing an immediate, massive stroke or heart attack. This process is akin to a house on fire, where small sparks may seem trivial, but every spark adds fuel to a blazing inferno, which finally consumes everything in its path. Once the clot seals off the blood supply, rescue efforts become futile because the damage is done in the blink of an eye. making these deadly events one of the most tragic consequences of long-standing arterial neglect. In the final tragic moments revealed during numerous autopsies, the invisible, slow-building rupture of tiny plaques emerges as the silent killer responsible for countless sudden deaths among seniors. These plaques, benign-looking and undetectable in daily life, have been quietly deteriorating for years beneath the surface, often accelerated by dietary choices high in refined sugars, processed fats, or insufficient physical activity. The interior walls of the arteries become riddled with a web of unstable deposits that fracture in microsecond bursts, releasing small clots that are virtually invisible to even the keenest medical examination before death. Autopsies frequently show arteries filled with old, scarred, and brittle plaques, with only microscopic tears responsible for the final fatal event. These tiny, unnoticeable ruptures often occur during routine activities, bending over to tie a shoelace, lifting a grocery bag, or walking upstairs. Any sudden surge in blood pressure or physical exertion can be enough to trigger the disaster. The result is an abrupt, catastrophic blockage that cuts off blood flow instantly, leaving the victim unresponsive before medical personnel can even arrive. The terrifying truth is that for many seniors, their death was not caused by a massive, obvious event, but by a sequence of silent, unnoticed insults that culminated in a single microscopic rupture. Their end came so swiftly and silently that only the autopsy revealed the true, invisible killer lurking behind seemingly benign symptoms, proof that danger was always present, hidden beneath everyday routines.